A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood was directed by Marielle Heller, which is her first major studio production after directing the indie features The Diary of a Teenage Girl and Can You Ever Forgive Me? It is also the second film after Won't You Be My Neighbor to focus on TV legend Fred Rogers. And a brief synopsis of the film's plot would be that in 1998, investigative journalist Lloyd Vogel is assigned to profile Fred Rogers for the latest issue of Esquire magazine. As Lloyd meets with Fred on multiple occasions, he learns lessons that prove to be more pivotal to his personal growth than he ever could have expected. Now, when Won't You Be My Neighbor was released last summer, everyone, including myself, fell head over heels for it. Fred Rogers, after all, was such a pivotal figure for many people's childhoods. To have such a poignant documentary cover his life, legacy, and psychology as movingly as it did, just cemented his reputation even further. But once that movie was over, I didn't really think that there was much more we could learn about him. That is until A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood came along. I should give a fair warning, however, that the movie is not about Fred Rogers specifically. Rather, it's a drama inspired by a real-life magazine journalist named Junod, and I apologize if I said that name wrong. His life-challenging experience in profiling Fred serves as a basis for the film's story, in which Matthew Rhys very skillfully portrays a fictionalized version of Tom. From here, Rogers only serves an ancillary purpose to the narrative, being the voice that enables Matthew Rhys's Lloyd Vogel to change. With that, anyone expecting a straightforward movie about Tom Hanks portraying Fred Rogers will either be disappointed or surprised. Maybe even both. But for me, this approach allowed for the movie to be much less of a biopic and more of a human story. We already knew that Mr. Rogers was a kind soul on and off the camera, but seeing that through the lens of someone unaware of his goodness provides sufficient setup for conflict. After all, as Lloyd Vogel carries out his assignment in profiling Fred, his experience begins to unravel his emotions and causes him to take a deep look at his own life. And just like how Fred Rogers was on his show, this drama executes this ensuing story with the most gentle, quiet touches. Here we have a man living in denial of his cynicism and personal problems, who then encounters a seemingly infallible man that can't help but want to help him. What I expected was a movie full of emotion and nostalgia, which, admittedly, I did get. But what surprised me, though, is the restraint from director Marielle Heller, who allowed the movie to just be real. It all perfectly honors the legacy of Fred Rogers in that way, just letting the audience breathe and feel what the characters are feeling. Music doesn't get in the way, visuals don't overpower the focus of the scene, and the story structure isn't manufactured to elicit marketable social media reactions. It's all about the characters and the growth they experience. More often than not, the characters interact with one another in completely realistic ways, even when obvious plot points are obvious. Lloyd Vogel may not be the easiest person to get behind, but just like Taika Waititi did with Jojo Rabbit, I think Marielle Heller made the wise choice to not apologize for giving us an initially unlikable character. This makes him emotionally vulnerable, and once the screenplay bridged the gaps between him and the other characters, I felt plenty of secondhand relief. But despite this, I don't mean to say that the movie avoids paying homage to the show. It just happens to do it in a way that doesn't distract from what's important. Not only are the costumes, aesthetics, puppets, and the set of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood meticulously recreated, they actually play into the narrative of the film. Scene transitions mimic the show's opening of the camera hovering over a miniature set. With this, we see recreations of cities like New York and Pittsburgh, in addition to unique human figures and cars inhabiting the space. Music reminiscent of the very simple piano jingles also accompany these scenes. The intention behind these creative choices became clear once I realized that the cast and crew basically created a feature-length metatextual episode of the show. It's the mature but tender bonus we adults get for our burdened, beaten-down souls. Heller and company carried on Fred's legacy wonderfully by capturing his spirit in their work. In life, Fred Rogers may have targeted children as his audience, but his messages of kindness, forgiveness, and emotional honesty are as far-reaching as any timeless life lesson. Because of this film's grace, gentleness, willingness to let tender scenes be quiet and emotional, along with the way Tom Hanks effortlessly imitates Fred Rogers, it's a completely rewarding experience for adults and children alike. With that, I will be giving A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood an A-. But in terms of an age recommendation, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood may not shy away from the deep-rooted hatred and resentment present in some of the characters' conflicts. I mean, we see a very brief fight in the first act, but it's far from inappropriate for family viewing. Anyone who's capable of sitting still for a more intimate and meditative drama should be fine to watch this. With that, I would say it's probably best for anyone who's at least 10 years old. Thank you so much for watching my content as always. Feel free to like and subscribe if you like this content and would like to see more reviews from yours truly. In the end though, thank you for watching as always, and I hope you have a great one.